Dr. CVS Kiran, Vice President, Skyroot, Aerospace, India's #1 private space exploration company.
Nice to speak, especially to audience who are, going on towards a journey where they want to explore space and they want to know more about space. Yeah, as you said, I'm working as a vice president at Skyroot Aerospace for materials and strategic initiatives. I'm basically a material scientist by profession. Metallurgy and material science is what I have studied. Of course, like many other fields, space is something which is having different features. When I was doing my bachelor's in metallurgy, everyone were going for computer science.
But tell us about that, sir, about your inspiration.
That new professor who was teaching me that instrument, Professor Lawrence Kindler, to solve a problem which I was challenging my professor with. I used to code a lot in my bachelor's, and then he said, "Prove it to me, Kiran." So I had to learn a new instrument, and in the process, he said, "Why don't you join my group and work and also learn?"
What a good teacher.
Yeah.
Please go on, sir.
And Professor Kindler taught me ethics in life, I can tell you that. I haven't learned ethics anywhere in my entire career more than what I learned from him. And also foreign people to return back to India, a lot of programs are being created there. So I think that's a good opportunity for people to come back to India and also serve. But subsequently, when I left India, a lot of things were off. After approximately 2 months, I got a call from ISRO, which I applied when I was in Germany. It was fantastic experience of joining ISRO. They have such a plethora of materials which are mind blowing.
So ISRO also has some sort of, is it called Insight, the organization that liaisons with the private companies to share technologies?
Yeah, so every application, whatever you use your material in, demands particular type of strength, particular type of properties, particular type of corrosion properties, particular mechanical properties. All these things should be imbibed in that application. Space is something which is ruthless. No one hears the word help there. There's no one who can help the object, nor even humankind. When we come to materials, especially when you look at the atoms, in dark you see in the reciprocal space they look similar and they look like stars in the sky. In 2020, once COVID came into place, there was a lot of problems everywhere.
Because I was so impressed by the Skyroot website, opening space for all and affordable, on-demand, reliable ride to space. So this is very exciting to know.
At Skyroot, what we do are we build launch vehicles. Launch vehicles are nothing but rockets.
Okay.
And these rockets are the mode of transporting anything from ground to space. If you talk about rockets, the most everyone what gets into their mouth is SpaceX. SpaceX builds trains.
Yeah.
They carry everyone from Earth to space, but to a destined, not to the destined orbit, but to a destined railway station. Every day we use a lot of applications which are related to space. Of course, a lot of failures happen. That is all normal part and parcel. Without failures, there are no success.
Absolutely.
So failures are the stepping stones to success, and everyone should get up and also learn from the failures. And I'm pretty confident that all my former colleagues and friends are working relatively very hard to get to that point.
Dr. Kiran, thank you for joining. When I first called a friend about private space exploration in India, I didn't know about Skyroot. And I floated my idea through the NITK Suratkal alumni group that I'm part of. And lots of people were helpful and forthcoming. But it was a fellow alumni from University of Leeds through a friend's friend who connected us. And I'm very grateful. So Dr. CVS Kiran, Vice President, Skyroot, Aerospace, India's #1 private space exploration company. Tell us a little bit about what you do at Skyroot, sir, and what inspired you to choose your path.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. And it's always, nice to speak, especially to audience who are, going on towards a journey where they want to explore space and they want to know more about space. Of course, like many other fields, space is something which is having different features. Let's talk about that also in the course. Yeah, about myself, as you said, I'm working as a vice president at Skyroot Aerospace for materials and strategic initiatives. I'm basically a material scientist by profession. Metallurgy and material science is what I have studied. And I am actually inside a course or a phase wherein I joined the stream of aerospace engineers. So many people, when they think about aerospace engineering, they say, yeah, aerospace is only for aerospace. When they are young, people have that misconception and then tend only to go towards aerospace. But to tell you the truth, aerospace actually contains many fields together.
Tell
All
us
the
about it,
fields,
sir.
all the
Yes, yes,
fields,
get in.
all the
Yeah.
core branches of engineering are those branches of engineering which are actually facilitating the rockets today.
So
So,
you're saying that there is, are you saying that there is computer engineering and electrical engineering and mechanical, all that, or
yeah.
did I
So
misunderstand?
what I'm telling you is that I would actually tell you the last computer engineering. The first one, what I would tell you there is mechanical engineering,
Okay,
then electronics, electrical. Then we have a lot of aerospace people also, which come into the batch. Chemicals are used a lot. Then we have materials who are used a lot where I come from. Uh,
correct.
then a lot of structural engineering needs to be done. A lot of design needs to be done. Design engineers are needed. And
Cool.
then,
So, sir, sorry to interrupt, but we'll talk about building a rocket, designing a rocket in a simple way little later. But for now, to start with, I think the audience would be interested in knowing not only the stream, like you said, you studied materials and metallurgy and ended up in aerospace with such a fantastic company and the work you're doing, cutting edge. But in terms of what the kids can do today, and they might draw inspiration from how you got into aerospace. Like for materials engineering, like I studied mechanical engineering and I went to TCS. I did some software in my initial career before I did other things. But tell us about that, sir, about your inspiration.
so yeah, so since childhood, I've been very passionate about metallurgy. So it's not that by virtue I just got into metallurgy, but I wantedly took metallurgy over other branches of engineering. And many people say, yeah, it's my last preference to go into metallurgy, but it's not that scenario because none of it today what you use, even a computer, is made out of materials which require high end stuff. Yeah.
We require what, sir?
Require high end of manufacturing, high end materials like the RAMs what you use, the random access memory, or even for that
Correct.
simple matter, the aesthetics what you have on your laptop, or the semiconductor
So true.
devices what you use. Everything at the end of the day boils down to materials. A wrong material would end up in a complete different application.
True,
So
true.
I wanted to do materials because of the fact that since my childhood I've been with my mom. My mom is a geochemist. So
Very cool.
I had the opportunity to wander along with her during her field trips, collecting a lot of
Super. Where did you
specimens.
go, sir? Where did you go
A
in your
lot.
field trips?
My mom's PhD field was in the field of Karnataka, and she used to collect a lot of banded iron formations in Karnataka region. So I used to go through along with her to a lot of places in Karnataka. Collect a lot of rock samples. I had a beautiful collection of rock.
Very cool.
Samples when I was a kid, but subsequently when I left India, a lot of things were off. So yeah, so then I did my bachelor's in metallurgy and materials. As part of the thing, I would say that I was passionate about a lot of tech, even right from my childhood. I used to do repairs myself. I used to open the switchboards, of course, under supervision of parents. But people thought, why this fellow is opening everything, whatever he finds.
Super. Great
And
supervision.
the thing is, I had inquisitiveness to learn more. That was the most important thing. And what I also, when I look upon back, what I see is that when I try to learn something, I also get new fields which are always added. So, for example, when I was doing my bachelor's in metallurgy, everyone were going for computer science. Everyone. But I was very, very motivated also to learn computers. I used to code a lot in my bachelor's. Possibly people were thinking, my professors at that time, that I would change my field into computer science after my bachelor's. And I was very much particular. I would always say no. I would use my computer skills in all, whatever I'm doing in metallurgy. But at the end of the day, it also turned up like that. At that time, where Microsoft Word and even computers were not so much accessible during our bachelor's, I used to write all my lab reports in computer in using a computer at that time. Completely giving that literature sort of a thing for the next gen to the college. So people used that for over a decade as a exemplar for everyone.
Awesome.
I
Yeah, we
came to
need
know it
great
at a
notes.
later stage. I didn't know that when they were using it. And
Okay.
then it feels happy, when you start something and people are using it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then I used to learn a lot computers. I used to do code a lot. And towards the end of my
Do you
bachelor,
still code, sir? Do you still code in your current job role?
literally
No,
minimal, literally
only
minimal.
for
I guide people for,
hobby.
yeah, only for hobby. I do a lot of hobbying coding at home. I automate
Okay.
a lot of stuff using Python codes and
Yes, yes.
normal Raspberry Pi based codes. Home automation I do.
So what I'm understanding from what you're saying is that uh, aerospace chose you, space exploration chose you rather than you choosing space exploration. Is that correct?
Let's go next step. Then you'll
Oh,
understand
sir,
what's
sir, please,
happened.
please, please,
Then,
please.
when I finished my bachelor's, I went for my master's. I continued my master's in material science. And, master's in material science at an international university was fantastic because of the infrastructure which is available there.
Where did you study, sir?
At the University of Kiel, Germany.
Okay, okay. And your
There was,
undergrad?
in Hyderabad, Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Technology in Metallurgy and Material
Superb,
Sciences. And
superb.
my undergrad actually taught me a lot. Literally, I learned a lot. And even today, I prefer to, engage with BTech metallurgy people than MTech metallurgy people because of the knowledge what a BTech metallurgy would have over that. And
Sure,
then
sure.
after my master's, I wanted to pursue my PhD. I was a passionate researcher. During my my master's itself, I used to work in the lab literally over the time limits. They used to say, it's enough for today, you should leave. There's no security protocols ask you to leave. That was the scenario always for me in the labs. I am still passionate about laboratories. Like to work in labs. And then after that, I pursued further my PhD in the field of material sciences in a field called nanocomposites, nanomaterials. And
Nano,
what
you mean 10 to the power minus 9 nano.
exactly,
Okay.
10 to the power of minus 9 nano. And then what happens effectively is that how the properties change. And I was working on a specific problem, which is about irradiation of nano composite thin films by swift heavy ions. And through that, I developed interest in space. So that was the main budding point.
Does that have application in space?
Yeah, so exactly. So when I started the PhD, I didn't know about it. Yeah.
Okay, okay,
I liked the topic of optical properties, so I went into that field. And
okay.
nanocomposites were my favorite, so I went into that field. That was the second thing.
Awesome.
And then during the course of finishing my PhD, after finishing my PhD, not even during the course, after finishing my PhD, I was looking at the applications where this could potentially be used so that I could plan my future journey. Because once you get to your PhD, you are professionally fit, especially at a foreign university.
Where did
And
you study PhD, sir?
in the same university, University of Kiel, Germany.
In Germany.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in
Did you have to
nanocomposites.
learn German to go there?
No, 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 no. I never
Very
learned
cool.
German. I just took 12 hours of German language at Ramakrishna Math in Hyderabad.
Uh-huh.
But now my German language is equal to my mother tongue Telugu, or better to say, it's better than my mother tongue. I don't know. I
Wow.
just got it. I just got it.
That's so cool. So you picked
So
up German in Germany.
yeah, it just came. I don't know.
Superb. Maybe you have a flair for languages. And obviously
Possibly.
you're a very smart person. You're a rocket scientist. Please
It's
go
not
on,
at
sir.
all
Please
like
go
that,
on.
but I always see language as a tool.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be a barrier. So that's the reason I went into that field. And during the course, what I also learned is that swift heavy ions are those ions which are highly, present in the cosmic radiation. The cosmic
Okay.
radiation entails lot of swift heavy ions, and these are the primary things which are responsible for damage in materials.
Okay. So do these launch vehicles and spacecrafts have a nano coating that you design?
So you came to that point. So there are a lot of
Wow.
optical glasses, not we at Skyroot, but in general at ISRO, when I worked at ISRO,
Sure.
I'll come back
Sure.
to that point. But
Yeah.
all these optical coatings, they used to get damaged because of these swift and heavy ions, and because of a particular amount of fluence, that is the dose, what is given onto these coatings, how they damage was my part of my PhD. Damaging in sense of how these optical properties change was the part of my PhD work.
Correct.
So
Correct.
after that, I could actually sense the applications of that, and that moved me a lot towards, materials, especially for space. And then I always already had the opportunity to work on a special type of material called intermetallics, which are used by the German Aerospace Agency in
Okay.
Germany. So
Okay.
there, I had the, I didn't have the possibility. I was actually pushed into that. It attracted me more because I had the opportunity to learn a new instrument, which is called transmission electron microscope, to solve a problem which I was challenging my professor with. And then
Superb.
he
Superb.
said, "Prove it to me, Kiran." So I had to learn a new instrument. And in the process, that new professor who was teaching me that instrument, Professor Lawrence Kindler, he said, "Why don't you join my group and work and also learn?"
He was impressed by you.
Yeah, he
Very
was
cool.
impressed by
Very
me,
cool.
and he asked me three times. Two times I denied him, which I never we should do. And third time I joined him because my PhD guide said it's a good opportunity. Why don't you take it? And then I had beautiful time with Professor Kindler, and then he taught me electron microscopy. In the process, I learned about titanium aluminides, a new type of, not new type, at that time it was a new type of aluminum rich titanium aluminides, which are used for aerospace applications by the German Aerospace Agency. And then tried to study their atomic level properties. So basically looking at the atomic level arrangement and then sense their properties. And after a particular time, I was more moved towards studying the movement of atoms or the change in the properties with respect to the stimulus what you apply. So for example, if you are applying heat to a material, how the material changes with respect to their atomic arrangement. I was very passionate about doing that inside the electron microscope. So traditionally electron microscopes look at atoms or look at atomic structure, or you get different properties of your materials by using the electron microscopes. But my interest was at that time to see how materials change in an electron microscope when you apply stimulus. Like when you heat it inside a microscope, what happens? So at that time, very less amount of you know effort was given because it was a costly affair. So
Okay.
then I had the opportunity to speak to one
Was
of
this in Germany, sir, or was it in India, in
no,
ISRO?
it was in Germany. It was in Germany.
Germany.
Yeah. And then I moved to a place called Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, KIT, because my professor said your ideas and your thoughts demand huge amount of funding. And
Okay.
it is better that you go to a university which has huge funding, which will, ripen your ideas.
What a good teacher.
Yeah.
Please
And
go on, sir.
Professor Keenler taught me ethics in life. I can tell you that. I
Uh-huh.
haven't learned ethics anywhere in my entire career more than what I learned from him. And
Please go on.
then I moved to Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. I was just on a casual call and I said, I'm looking for positions. And the person who's other side, Professor Dr. Christian Kubel, he was a very close friend of mine by that time already. He said, they don't want you there, was the reaction from him. I said, no, it's not about that. They said my ideas are costly because I wanted to work on battery materials. Because in batteries, when you apply electric field, you can see how the charging and discharging takes place. I really don't
Is
know
that
how,
through an electron microscope or the
yeah,
charging
inside an
discharge?
electron microscope, so that you
Uh-huh. Please
see
go on.
how can you extend the life of a battery. Because all the batteries, what you look at, 2 years, you see degradation in their properties.
Okay. Okay.
So this was not what I liked. I don't know, somehow I bumped into this idea. And then effectively it came to the point that, yeah, it's fantastic let's try. But if there are applicants who are stronger than you, Kiran, then we should go with them, is what Christian told me.
Uh-huh.
And he interviewed more than 20 people. And I was, by the way, all these years until I moved to Karlsruhe, I was socially very active. I was doing a lot of social activities as part of the Indo-German Society. I created one of its kind. I was the representative of all the international students at the university as an international student representative elected by the students. I was
So
awarded the
networking, I think what you're trying to say to our audience is that networking and being socially
yeah.
active with people is important. But I want to touch upon one thing that you mentioned earlier about the battery technology that you're working on. Is that something you're working at Skyroot as well? Because that seems to be cutting edge in terms of not just aerospace, but sustainable energy, even on Earth.
So actually, I work in a lot of fields in which deals anything with materials. I work in Skyroot on.
Okay.
So what I did in Karlsruhe was studying batteries. I ended up in Karlsruhe because the entire team wanted me in Karlsruhe. The entire group of Christians said we want Kiran because they found that I used to speak German at that time already fluently. And yeah, then I moved to Karlsruhe. I worked in the field of in situ method development for battery materials. So they selected me among 21 people from throughout the world for that field. And it was great to be at Karlsruhe because one of my childhood mentor from India was the former director of Advanced Research Center International, Dr. G. Sundararajan. Just out of taking suggestions from him, I met him and then he said, Kiran, why don't you go and work with Professor Horst Hahn in Germany? I never even knew him at that time, but I ended up with Christian Kubel, and the boss or the director of Christian Kubel
God
was
bless
Horst
your
Hahn.
mentors.
Host Han, and it happened like a miracle. I never imagined or nor I planned to go and work with Host Han. Host Han was a gem of a person. The first time when I interacted with him, he said, Sundarajan told, and you came and landed with me. It is such a blessing what God has given. And in Germany, there's a typical way in which you address a person. Unless and until you know the person, you never address him with their first name. Like what we address in India, we don't address there in Germany. So
Sure.
they never can call me Kiran until I give them the permission. So Professor Han came and told me, Kiran, today we are friends. You should call me from today host and not Professor Han. If you call me Professor Han, I will also call you Dr. Chakravadhanula, but I will not be able to pronounce your name properly.
Yeah. No, no. For the audience, please pronounce your full name, sir. Dr. C.V.S. Kiran is actually what, sir? Tell us your
Chakra,
full name.
Dr. Chakravadhanula Venkata Sai Kiran.
Please go on with what you were saying after
Yeah.
you met.
Yeah, and then I worked in the field of battery materials for a newly built institute called Helmholtz Institute Ulm for electrochemical energy storage, which was a part of Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. I was also associated with the Karlsruhe Nano Micro Facility, which is a user facility. A lot of people come together with their experiments, do their experiments, get their results because of the infrastructure which is available there. Because in Germany, one of the richest societies is the Helmholtz Society, which funds a lot of research.
Okay.
So I was part of that, and I worked a lot in battery materials and the method development. I was also heading the subgroup under Christian Kubel. I never wanted to create my own group because I was always particular on returning back to India since I went to
Okay.
Germany. I learned a lot, but I said I will return back to India eventually. So I don't want to create false promises, and I never took a citizenship there. I was on permanent residency there. And then
Okay.
2017, I returned back to India. I started working at ARCI, which Dr. Sundarajan left by that time, who was my mentor. I worked there as a project scientist for around 3 months.
What is the ARCI, sir?
Advanced Research Center International for Powder Metallurgy and New Materials.
That's in which city is that?
It's in Hyderabad. It's a Department of Science and Technology organization. Uh, it was it's a fantastic place where you can do beautiful research, application
Okay.
oriented research, I should say.
Okay. So no courses, only application oriented research
Yes,
comes out of that. Okay.
yes. And there, when I was working for 3 months, I worked on battery material characterization, establishing. They had a beautiful TEM, electron microscope, but I taught them how to do electron energy loss spectroscopy, a spectroscopic technique, which was there, but in India, the infrastructure is there, but the number of people who utilize that remains limited.
Oh, is
So
that because many skilled people go abroad?
yes, so if you look at any of the IITs, 90% of the people just leave the country. They're not the workforce of the country. We need them to
So,
develop the
what do you
country.
think we should do to attract talent, sir? What brought you back to India?
So it was always my passion. I've been brought up that I have to return back to the country. That was a different
Sure.
story.
Sure.
But if you look
Sure.
at most of the people now, we have programs which are running from, for
Mm,
example, the ANRF, which is Anusandhan National Research Foundation, which have
mm.
recently put Dr. Shivkumar Kalyan Ram is the CEO of that. Very nice programs have been created at the intersection of industry and academia, and also foreign people to return back to India. A lot of programs are being created there. So I
Okay.
think that's a good opportunity for people to come back to India and also serve their country, because we need a lot of indigenous things which need to be developed. Of course, it's not going to be a cakewalk because of the cultural shock, which exists always, but there should be a starting point for the country. So I returned back, and then after approximately 2 months, I got a call from ISRO, which I applied when I was in Germany, asking me to come and join for the interview. So I went for the
Which
interview.
city, sir? ISRO in which city you were in?
Tiruvananthapuram.
Trivandrum, sir. Okay. Please go on.
So it was at the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center of ISRO. I worked there approximately uh, from March 2017. Sorry, March 2018. March 2018, I came and joined ISRO. It was fantastic experience of joining ISRO. They have such a plethora of materials which are mind blowing. I worked at the materials and mechanical entity there, and
ISRO also has some sort of, is it called Insight, the organization that liaisons with the private companies to share technologies
yeah. So there are two wings of ISRO which have been recently come out, and one of them is called InSpace, which is
in
the
space?
regulatory authority, and there is one more organization called NSIL, New Space India Limited. That is also one more organization which does transfer of technologies from ISRO to all the other companies whoever are interested in, or gives
Okay.
launch activities and such things. So I joined Vikram Sarabhai Space Center in materials. I was responsible for the electron microscope there. So I established that electron microscope, and I never needed training on that because it was my pocket calculator. And I also had the opportunity to work on beautiful materials, which only I think rarely we have the opportunity to look at those outside aerospace. So it was beautiful. I learned
What
a
are
lot.
some of these materials?
Different types of superalloys.
Oh,
Superalloys are
can
superalloys are
tell us about it, sir. It's very
nickel
interesting.
and
Something that is not available on Earth.
no, they're all available. They're all available. They're all available on Earth. They're all manufactured. Some of them are what do you call, manufactured inside the country. For example, Midhani is one such organization who manufactures them. And I had the opportunity to work with a very good team over there, highly motivated team. And one of the person whom I worked with was Dr. SVS Narayanamurthy, who is currently the chairman Midhani. And I also had the opportunity to work with Dr. V. Anil Kumar, an expert of titanium alloys. And
So these super alloys you're talking about, are these very rare on Earth and more in space?
no. It's not about more on Earth, but a different, every application of, every application, whatever you use your material in, demands particular type of strength, particular type of properties, particular type of corrosion properties, particular mechanical properties. All these things should be imbibed in that application. So depending on the requirement, for example, on a rocket, a particular material is used for that purpose, for that
Got
purpose.
it. Now I understand. So you were talking about how these super alloys are used mainly for aerospace,
Yes,
for
these are
space
all
exploration.
are used in aerospace, but
Yeah,
to understand their deepest point, you need to look at the atomic arrangement. So that
correct.
was what
Please
was
go
my
on.
thing. For example, you keep a material outside for some time. What happens after 5 years? Are you allowed to use it back? So that needs to be studied from the atomic level, because space is something which is ruthless. No one hears the word help there. So if you see some object over there, so there's no one who can help the object, nor even humankind. That's the reason, since my childhood, I have been, a lot of passionate about stars in the sky. I used to come out,
Absolutely.
look at the stars in the sky, and I used to teach
Absolutely.
those constellations to all my friends. But when we come to materials, especially when you look at the atoms, in dark, you see in the reciprocal space, they look similar and they look like stars in the sky.
No kidding. No
Yeah,
kidding.
so they are called diffraction pattern. So we look completely in dark patterns. And because of that,
Wow.
we can actually see the interatomic distances.
Sounds like self-symmetry to me.
So two atoms, the distance between those two atoms and the arrangement of them, the defects in between determine the properties of materials. So these are very important to study so that appropriate applications can be utilized. So there I went towards understanding that. And I also had the opportunity, because of Dr. Narayan Murthy's expertise in failure analysis, I had a lot of opportunity to work with him from very close quarters and understand, and also try to get how to do failure analysis a lot. So in 3 years, what I learned a lot at ISRO was failure analysis.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and then I had the opportunity to also look at new materials which they were using in Chandrayaan 3. For example, they used some silica-based cloths developed by Dr. Nagapriya and their team. And it was fantastic how people used to, go into various fields of materials itself to develop something for the, space technology. So that moved me a lot. And in 2020, once COVID came into place, there was a lot of problems everywhere. So I was a lot passionate about 3D printing. So I was 3D printing polymers. So I did a lot of 3D printing at home already there. And in the process, the Honorable Prime Minister announced that space is going to be privatized, and he introduced that privatization of space, so private companies can
Jai
enter
Hind.
and do a lot of space activities inside India. So then there are a lot of companies which were there, and one such company which was doing rockets and which needed materials at that time, or expertise in materials in a longer run, was Skyroot. So I approached Skyroot Aerospace, and Pawan and Bharat were the co-founders of Skyroot. Both of them worked at ISRO. Pawan in the field of mechanical engineering, and Bharat in the field of electronics and avionics. It was
I want to show the audience, sir, the
yeah.
Skyroot website because I was so impressed by the Skyroot website. Hold on, let me try to share screen. Uh, I want to, because it is written
Opening
that
space for all.
uh, hold on. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, this is Skyroot, opening space for all and affordable, on-demand, reliable right to space. So this is very exciting
Skyroot.
to know.
At Skyroot, what we do are we build launch vehicles. Launch vehicles are nothing but rockets.
Okay,
And these rockets are the mode of transporting anything from ground to space. So these are the main modes. Like for example, kids, if you go from one place to other, you need something mode of transportation, a bike or a car or a bus or a train, right? In a similar way, we need to have some mode of transportation what we can move from Earth to space. So what Skyroot is building are launch vehicles, typically catering to the need of small satellites. So
okay,
nowadays, everyone are doing small satellites. So small satellites need to be launched specifically. So Skyroot doesn't build trains as of now, but what we
okay.
build are cars. So
Got it, got it.
cars
But is there a
transport.
vision to build? Is there a vision to build the trains that you call?
Possibly eventually how the market takes, it all depends on how
Okay.
the market takes its shape.
Sure, sure.
So as of now, what we build are cars which take us from point A to point B, which is our destination.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So what we build are rockets which take us from Earth to space to the distant orbit
For private companies?
for private or government or anyone.
Okay, okay, okay.
So in a similar way, for example, if you talk about rockets, the most everyone what gets into their mouth is SpaceX. SpaceX builds trains.
Yeah, yeah.
They carry everyone
Starship.
from Earth to space, but to a destined, to not to the destined orbit, but to a destined railway station. Or
Eh,
from there, the satellites have to work still to go to their destined orbit. So this is
okay,
what
okay.
is the difference. So there are also companies like in the US called Rocket Labs
Go on, please.
also build cars like us.
Okay, okay.
So this is what Skyroot does. And in ISRO, when I was working, we had the PSLV, the workhorse of the country. Of course, a lot of failures happen. That is all normal part and parcel. Without failures, there are no success.
Absolutely.
So failures are the stepping stones to success, and everyone should get up and also learn from the failures. And I'm pretty confident that all my former colleagues and friends are working relatively very hard to get to that point. So precision, especially in engineering, and very tight cost constraints are always existent in space sector. And this is not only faced by Skyroot, but any organization, any space faring organization in the world. And
So tell us, for the layman. Sorry to interrupt, but I
yeah,
wanted to get the audience as involved as possible in terms of everyday experience. Now we are talking about space, and you work for a space company, and how does this affect the everyday person in India and on the globe?
so every day we use lot of applications which are related to space, right? From the banks who give loans to agricultural farmers to the GPS systems what we use on our mobiles, or to any of the communications what we do on our mobile phones. Everything is space based. Everything is space based.
How
And
far from Earth is this? The
so
satellites?
it depends. Now, if you look at atmospheric layers, what since childhood all of us study, so there are different layers of atmosphere. Approximately 10 kilometers is the area where we have our aeroplanes. Yeah. And
Okay, okay.
then once we go to around 20 kilometers, the air becomes very thin. The temperature, pressure conditions completely vary. It's called stratospheric regime. And then from 20 to 50 kilometers, we have the area or the region where high altitude balloons, stratospheric systems like aerostats, sorry, airships work over there. So these are some areas from which the rocketry has also evolved itself. So people, when they used to, ISRO was once formed before, they used to do a lot of balloon experiments to understand how things behave in space. Was always very
Up to 50
costly.
kilometers in the sky?
20 to 50 kilometers is the range where people used to experiment with.
Oh.
So once they were successful there, they were getting confidence that their payloads would be, successful at higher altitudes. So then came the era where people started doing systems like sounding rockets or suborbital rockets. So they used to send their payloads into the suborbital rocket, like what Skyroot has done on 18 November 2022, where we launched India's first private sounding suborbital rocket called Vikram S under the mission Prarambh.
Awesome. Congratulations.
And then it was successful where we were able to test three payloads of customers, and also a lot of good tests for validating our Vikram 1 orbital vehicle, which is planned to be launched this year. So Vikram 1 is the orbital class launch vehicle what we are trying to launch this year, which contains three solid stages, which is based on solid propulsion, and one
Okay.
uppermost liquid orbital adjustment module. So liquid stage. And Skyroot has developed, or Skyroot has is using three different types of propulsion technologies. One is solid propulsion, named after Dr. Abdul Kalam as Kalam series of motors. And then
Oh,
we have liquid propulsion, which is named after Sir C.V. Raman as Raman series of engines. And cryogenic propulsion, cryogenic technology, what you all know from the movies, which is named after Dr. Satish Dhawan as Dhawan series of engines. And the entire launch vehicles, what we make, are named
so
after Vikram Sarabhai
uh,
as Vikram series of rockets.
so that's where the Vikram comes from. So how
Yes.
far is this, sir? The Vikram one, which is planned to be launched this year by Skyroot Aerospace, how far
Uh,
from Earth?
it's going to go approximately into the low Earth orbit, which is approximately 400 to 500 kilometers regime.
Awesome, awesome.
And there it is going to deploy the satellites of the customers into orbit who are already flying with us on the first vehicle itself. And there are also additional, proving things what we prove from our own perspective, which will also be carried on.
Superb. So do
So
these rockets that are launched for the payloads, do they reach orbital velocity or is it little less than
yes, yes.
orbital?
No,
They
no, no.
reach
They have
orbital?
to reach. They have to reach.
Or they reach orbit. But none of
Yes.
them reach escape velocity, no?
No, no,
Or
no.
do you go for escape velocity for some time and then come back to orbital velocity?
So the point is, once we go to the velocity which is intended so that the satellite does not fall into the Earth's atmosphere, that is what we look at. So
Okay,
kids,
okay.
kids, when we look at the gravitational pull of the Earth, we also have
Huh.
some force which is acting when an object is completely going in a circumferential way. So that force is what is needed, and you can calculate it. I think all of you now, I think, are at a class of 9th, 10th. I think you should calculate
No,
that, and that will give
the
you good
audience is a wide
numbers.
range, sir. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about orbital and escape velocity in terms of numbers. Because I remember from school, 11.2 kilometers per second is escape velocity, and orbital velocity is maybe 3, 4 bit range between that. But for the layman to imagine how fast that is, I think veterans like you are in a better position to explain. Because in terms of the rocket design and rocket what it takes to go to space, to get to that level of speed.
So when we have typically an orbital velocity, that is typically the speed in which a satellite needs to go so that it reaches or it maintains its stay in the stable orbit, whatever it is intended to go around a body. For example, now we are talking about Earth. In future, it might be Moon. Yeah. So if you look at
Is there a vision, sir? Is there a vision for Skyroot to build? Now I think ISRO is going one more round with this, but is there some private association
what do you mean? I didn't understand your question.
to go to
Private
the moon?
association.
To go to the moon, because I
Of
think
course,
as
of course, there are customers who come up which with the point that yes, we want to take our things to the moon. We want to send a lander to the moon, for example.
uh,
As the company grows, a lot of people will come up with these ideas. Okay.
that's very exciting to know that already there
Yeah.
are people saying that they want to take a lander to the moon. That's
No,
so
no,
exciting.
there are companies doing that. There are a lot of companies which have been registered as startups in the recent times doing this
Okay.
activity. The orbital velocity, what we were talking about,
Hmm.
and once it has to be in the orbit, differs from the velocity what it needs to reach and land on the moon. Everything is totally
Correct.
different over there. So moon's orbit is something which is like a different velocity what is needed over there. It's approximately of the order of around 2 kilometers or so, two
Okay. So
kilometers
that's
per second,
gravity.
2 kilometers per
Yeah.
second or so because of the gravitational pull of the moon. Yeah.
Correct.
If you think
Correct.
about the Earth's gravitational force, it depends. It varies depending on the altitude, what we talk about. So if we talk about low Earth orbit, it is of the order of between approximately 200 to 2000 kilometers, what is the altitude range, and approximately 7.8 kilometers or so kilometers per second is the orbital velocity. And if we go further beyond, for example, to medium Earth orbit, it goes to 4 kilometers per second. approximately, if I remember correctly. And
Is that
geostation,
orbital, sir?
yeah, it's
Is
all
that
orbital.
orbit?
It's all orbital velocity because the gravitational pull of the Earth decreases as you go to higher altitudes,
Got
right?
it, got it, got it,
So,
got it.
so then a lot of parameters change over there. The gravitational constant, the mass, which plays a role of
Okay,
the object. And then when you go to geostationary orbits, there it goes to 3 kilometers per second. So
okay.
further reduces. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is after the orbital, after it reaches a certain orbital velocity, no? Now, for
No,
example,
no, no.
you, you
This is the orbital velocity and at a particular altitude.
but
Okay.
what does it take to go to that altitude? How much
Oh,
at what's
so to insert a particular satellite into that orbital velocity is the function of the upper stage of the
okay,
launch vehicle.
okay.
So all these stages give particular velocity to that.
Got
Stage
it, got it.
which goes completely does its function, falls back. Stage 2 further takes it, gives much furthermore velocity at the same time also giving altitude, and then comes down. And then stage 3 does the same one. And finally, the orbital adjustment module of Vikram 1 contains Raman engines, and these precisely inserts the objects or the satellites in their intended orbits at the orbital velocity so that it doesn't fall down. And sometimes the satellites have their own propulsion systems which run, sometimes they don't. After their lifetime, they gradually decay their object orbit and then fall back to the earth. So a lot of things happen like that. And if you look at Skyroot's, since inception, we have been working on reusable, what do you call, engines, because these
How
are the
far are we
future.
from that, sir?
To develop any reusable engine takes long time. For example,
Okay,
Russians have developed that long time. It took 10 years for them to develop each engine. That's what it is said
okay.
in books, that approximately 10 years is the time taken to develop an engine. Skyroot has been working. For example, the Dhawan 2 engine, what we have showcased in our social media, there
Uh,
it is a reusable engine. It's also fully 3D printed. So
okay,
coming to the point, Skyroot also uses latest technologies. So one such technology is 3D printing, where the engines which are needed to, you know, which are needed for all the propulsion systems are done by 3D printing, metal 3D printing. So metal powders are used to manufacture these engines by 3D printing. So a laser is used to make these, and then
wow,
in a similar way, we use advanced composites, carbon fiber composites, to make the solid rocket motors. At the end of the day, it's a play of how fast we can get into the market also.
correct, correct. Because it is market driven.
Yes.
Definitely, definitely. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about STEM careers for young people.
Mhm.
Uh, how can I think Skyroot is already not a very young company. You were saying many startups are coming today trying to do things in the Indian private space uh, industry, but Skyroot is one of the
Top.
leaders, spearhead. So now, not only as a model for the other startups that are coming up in India and around the world, but for the young people growing up in India and globally, what would you encourage them to do if they have some interest in space exploration? Because we have to understand that is also market driven. They need to be able to make a living, be happy doing it, and have the
Also,
opportunity to grow wealthy.
also helping the mankind.
Absolutely,
That is
absolutely.
very important. Helping humanity is vital. So, for example, I would ask you now a question: where are you from? What would you answer?
Manipal,
Yeah.
Manipal,
So now we go to a conference, and a person from Nigeria is going to ask you, where are you from? What do you say? What do you say? Your
I would
answer
say
would be, I'm from India.
Manipal, Karnataka, India.
Yeah. So then you're coming from your location to state, then from the state to the country, because that person knows only your country, right? Now,
Keep going.
when we further go beyond, and when we go into space on a holiday and enjoy on the moon a dinner, when someone asks you, where are you from? What do you say?
Manipal, Karnataka, India, Earth.
Exactly.
Uh,
So people should have that intent in mind, saying that we are from Earth and we should keep our Earth safe. So it is one
Absolutely.
Earth and one space.
Very cool.
Very important.
Very
So
cool.
I'm also, I've been honored recently to be a Common Fellow, and Common Fellowship is a fellowship which is given to around 15 people throughout the world every year. And I'm honored this year to be from India, representing India and giving that, been given that fellowship. And there also similar sort of policy decisions for the entire world are being taken there. So there one point which is very, very important also what they look upon is sustainability of space and activities in space. So very important point is that this inculcation of good habits for space should be given from early stages through STEM education.
Absolutely.
So, for example, we talked about a lot of companies which are there in India. So, some of the top companies who have started themselves early on are companies like Bellatrix Aerospace, like Digantara, like companies which are doing what do you call Satshore. Satshore is a downstream. So every company, whatever it does, is unique of itself. Their fields are different. So in space, there are totally three streams what we can classify it into: upstream, downstream, and midstream activities. Upstream are those things which take the things up into space, like manufacturing satellites, building rockets, and then midstream are getting the data from getting communication from these satellites down to Earth, and then downstream are utilizing these data to get inferences. For example, Satsure is a company which is dealing with satellite-based agricultural analysis, which gives information to the bank so that the banks can give loans to the bank to the agricultural
Wow.
people. So something fantastic like what Satsure is doing. Bellatrix, for example, is building propulsion systems which are for very low Earth orbit, completely unique in the world. And then Digantara is looking at space situational awareness in the country. Yeah.
Wow. Well, what
So
about the second one, sir? That propellers for low Earth orbits. What's the use of that?
so they use some sort of a indigenous technology for indigenous or a proprietary propulsion system, which uh, uh, which is based on a Hall effect thrusters. So they use electric propulsion in combination with air breathing and monopropellants. So they make propulsion systems which survive in very low Earth orbit. So approximately it can survive as low as 200 kilometers to 400 kilometers.
But what
So
are these propulsion systems used for? Like, what is the application?
exactly. So satellites need these propulsion systems. So if you go with chemical propulsion, and when you come very low towards the Earth, you need more and more amount of propulsion because the atmospheric pull, the gravitational pull of the Earth is higher. So the drag will be higher. So the life of the satellites become less, right?
Okay,
So
okay.
that is the reason they attach additional propulsion to the satellite, and this goes on.
Got it. Got it.
Electric propulsion is one such beautiful technology which has been, commercialized by this company called Bellatrix, and
Okay.
they breathe, for example, the thin air which is over there, or some nitrogen bearing plasma which is being generated over there, and then thrusting it. Very little amount of thrust is given, which is enough for the survival of the satellite for a longer time. And then, there are a lot of companies doing such activities. And there are also organizations like TAFR, and companies like Take Me to Space, which are building balloons, for example, is done by TFR. Take Me to Space is one company which is building CubeSats and CubeSat based systems for STEM purposes. They build complete platforms wherein students can put their codes into and run those codes in space for an orbit, so that the student doesn't need to spend so much money into paying for the entire satellite, but only for a few amount of orbits. So that will be very cheap for them. So
No,
one
I
such
don't understand. I don't
yeah.
understand, sir. So, take me to space. Uh, let students. Do you say code?
Yeah. So a lot of students nowadays are interested in coding, right? So they want to
Sure.
test their codes with some sensors on board. So Take Me to State Space sends such satellites which
Wow.
already has these sensors on board, and students can run their code on this satellite from ground. They transmit the code runs in an orbit, one orbit or two orbit, the code runs, the result comes to the student, motivating the students. So that's a
Wow.
beautiful
What, give us an example, sir, of something that a student could do? What kind of code and what kind of
I think
sensors?
I think what I would do in such a case is that directly introduce you to him so that you can speak to him. That will be best.
No, but for our current audience,
Yeah. So for example, a student wants to measure the temperature throughout an orbit. So he could run a code, he could create the code. Using that code, he could measure that and he would get his data out. And that's a huge motivation for the kid.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
they also run experiments on balloons wherein they put their platform on the balloons, and then the student runs the code from on the balloon, right from the balloon goes from here to stratosphere, and they can do that. So these are
Wow.
like small stuff what they do, and
Mm.
integrating hands-on you know early steps in the kids' minds, either through balloons or through platforms like this, would enable the minds to think out of the box,
Absolutely.
and basically creating open mindset of the kids, and sort of some
This
laboratories.
this company is called Take Me to Space,
Yes,
right?
yes, you can
What is
Google
their
it.
website, sir, for our
Take
current audience to check? Maybe they
TM
can
to
Google
space.
Take Me to Space India.
You get it. Yes, Take Me to
Yeah,
Space.
yeah. So
and and there are
after
a
you,
lot
sir.
of there are a lot of companies like this, and there's also a company Digantara, which is looking at the debris in the space, mapping them so that satellites, when they are going in their intended orbit, do not collide with them.
Got
Imagine
it.
a satellite collides with a debris, or a satellite collides with another satellite. The amount of debris it creates is unimaginable. Just as a rough estimate, if two Starlink satellites collide each other, and if no one takes care of that collision, within a month, the entire low Earth orbit would become unusable.
My God, just two Starlink satellites.
Yeah.
My God. So
And that is the
you
reason, very, very important is that testing is very, very important. So 100% confidence is the confidence what is needed by any person doing any space activity. If it is 90%, it is not done. That's the reason rigorous ground testing is done. People say, why are you testing it so much? You don't need it. It's an over. It is very important. And subsystems are tested, stages are integrated and again tested. And, at launch, everything is tested over and over again. And this is only, done to get confidence that nothing happens to this object once it goes into space. So now, India is heading towards space missions where people are being planned through the Gaganyaan mission. And also, people are planned through having our Bharati Antariksh Station.
when is
So
that planned, sir? What is the timeline?
timelines in space get very much delayed. So it all depends on previous missions, how things happen, and so on. But very important, which is to be kept in mind, is that these delays are all because of the testing.
Okay, okay.
So what is very, very important in all these things is testing, simulations, and this is only possible when rigorous amount of uh, you know procedures are placed in such a way that the process entirely is controlled.
Entirely is
Controlled.
controlled.
Yes.
Okay. So now
Under
let's
supervision.
let's look. We don't have exact timelines for when India will plan manned missions and
No,
maybe
no,
space station.
those timelines are already existent. Everything is there on the websites of ISRO. But
What is it, sir? What are the timelines for the benefit of our audience?
no, but very important point, whether India is going to meet those timelines is a question which, in space is very difficult to answer. So I would prefer not to talk about the timelines, but
Fine. I
rather
think it's better.
to go into the point that can we do that earlier? Why to talk about the timelines? How can we do that earlier?
Yeah, absolutely. Because of testing is required before we go to such extents. No, but
Exactly.
let's look far into the future. Let's look far. You're already part of a, if I remember correctly, 15-member committee globally that will talk, decide about things like ethics for potential colonization of Mars, something like that. So, can you enlighten me and our audience about something like
It's
that?
a huge question what you asked.
Yeah, yeah.
So lot of space missions, interagency missions are working. NASA, ESA, ISRO, JAXA, everyone are working towards that. A lot of
Mm.
companies are working. People are mostly crazy about moon and further asteroids.
Mostly craving about
Moon,
moon. Okay, okay,
lunar missions, lunar outposts. People want to
okay,
do
okay,
set up outposts there so that they can use something from moon to go to the next level. Why? Why do you
okay.
think so? Very important point, one which one can keep in their mind is that when one goes from Earth to Moon, yeah, the amount of fuel what is required is X. But to go from Earth to completely beyond Moon to an asteroid will be much, much higher. So if we have a rocket which could go from Moon to an asteroid, that would be very easier for us.
Okay, so that's great
Because
news.
so, and we don't need chemical propulsion. Chinese, for example, are working on propulsion system which are based on spring-based propulsion systems, magnet-based propulsion system, which could actually lift you off from a moon, from the moon. Very less amount of energy is required there. And then
So,
comes back to core branches of engineering, where people have to mine through the moon to get resources. People have to utilize the silica which is there on the moon, the regolith, to create objects, to create probably even engines, because one has to go from there to some other object, some other planet. For example, just imagine the scenario where one has to go from moon to Mars. So people are working a lot on deep space missions. The people are creating protocols for moon, Mars. People are creating protocol from which part of the moon who owns.
already,
Yeah, people are working. People are working on these. Lot of committees are formed internationally. What can we get back from the moon? Chinese are getting a lot of samples from the moon. Lot of study is being carried out over there. Russians have good experience already. US has good experience already. People are trying to build semi-permanent habitats. So just imagine you want to build a habitat on the moon for temporary living of an astronaut. How should it be? What safety protocols? Every few seconds, unlike Earth, you have a moonquake.
a
How is
moon.
it
What's that? Moon?
a moonquake? Like an earthquake, a moonquake.
A moon quick. Ah, okay.
How do we build structures? What are the protocols to be established?
Hmm.
And what can we extract from local environment of moon? And people want everything automated. So utilizing AI and ML based tools in core branches of engineering is going to be the key. So people today, as on today, inside the country are going all towards AI, ML and computer science. But one point which I don't understand all the parents who are also working in this field is that it's actually the problem with the parents, not with the kids. The parents force them into AI, ML and computer science. Any computer science or an AI or an ML guy has to listen to the problems, understand the problems of the core branch of engineering to create a product out. If the student himself at the bachelor's level is able to go into deep tech, that is core branches of engineering, then the student, he or she, could go into AI, ML at a later stage if they want to pursue, utilize that parallelly. Or for that matter, during bachelor's, AI and ML should be made compulsory for all branches rather than creating a separate field.
Absolutely. Great idea. And also, they should take a leaf from your book and follow their passion. Even when you had the option of doing computer science, you did what you had some interest in.
I do code a lot today. I do code a
Absolutely.
lot out of passion, but it is part and parcel. It's not that I choose only AI and ML. So in that way, we are building our nation. because only AI and ML engineers would not serve anything. So this is one thing which one has to be careful about. And you know, the most important thing, what space is something beyond our reach. There is a lot to be unraveled. And we don't need to be a genius for that. We need to be curious. We need to be passionate. We need to be completely committed. We need to be collaborative. And every big thing begins with a very small question. It is space is nothing only for astronauts. It is for engineers. It is for coders. It is for designers. It is for people who communicate. And most important, it is for dreamers.
Absolutely. So let's dream a little, sir. Let's dream a little before we wrap up today's session. So, how far are we from going to the moon for a lunch or dinner, or like you mentioned earlier in today's podcast?
So there are a lot of companies who are working as on today for space tourism. People are planning to take people into zero gravity conditions, very expensive tickets. And there are people who are taking people to stratospheric regime, showing the beautiful curvature of the Earth using balloons,
Wow.
cheaper, cheaper alternatives. They can
Okay.
actually have very good food over there in the
Oh, how far is this?
between 20 to 50 kilometers
Correct, correct. You
in
mentioned
pressurized
earlier.
chambers. People are working on that. So I'm pretty confident that within the next decade, we will be able to see people, going on tourism. Like when we were a kid, we used to see aeroplanes flying aboard. Yeah. Now it's come to a point where we say, oh, I hate to travel in the aeroplane. It's enough of flying. Right?
But maybe I read one article about how SpaceX Starship could even be used to transport within Earth,
Yes,
uh,
absolutely.
like
So
30 minutes from, say,
29
New York to
minutes.
Singapore.
29 minutes from India to US.
Hmm.
So it will revolutionize fully the transport ecosystem. But whether any other cheaper alternatives would come, or whether history would rewrite itself in the form of airships, which are completely green without any propulsion system,
Wow.
is a question. Because there are airships which are being built by a lot of companies which use lighter than air gases like hydrogen or helium, which take up
Okay.
without any effort, which can carry 2 tons, 3 tons, and go at a
Wow.
speed of what a transporter goes on the road, 80 to 100 kilometers, takes it over 3,000 kilometers range at completely green conditions without causing
This
any
is
pollution.
hydrogen fuel, you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, hydrogen gas.
Hydrogen
So
gas.
hydrogen gas is very light, so you can take it through up. You just put
Is
hydrogen
this
gas enough because of the buoyancy force. It is lighter than air, so it goes up. It carries
is
everything
this
with it.
is this technology in some other form coming to the Indian markets, Indian and global, as an alternative to petrol?
There are companies doing that. There are 2 companies which have just initiated their work. You will hear about them in the news very soon.
Very
And
cool.
there
Very
are
cool.
there are also historic companies, not historic companies, but historically people know a lot of airships were being developed during the World War to transport stuff. And the US is developing blimps. Aerostats are being used because very cheap. Surveillance along the borders is possible. You can transport stuff very easily. You can actually do disaster management very nicely. So such
So
companies are also being coming, and people are also
I actually have so many more questions to ask you about. So depending on the response of this, maybe I can invite you to a part two. But couple of questions, sir, before we wrap up for today. Uh, you did talk about envisioning a future where it is affordable, may not be initially affordable, but Skyroot, as you said in your website, affordable in the long run for people to go to space. How far are we from living on Mars? A colony on Mars, self-sufficient?
uh, I'm pretty confident that Elon Musk is going to do that very soon. He's such a
Uh,
passionate guy. And
Absolutely, absolutely. But
looking only from the
practically, sir, as
perspective,
someone from the inside, someone who is doing it in India and is involved with all these intricacies.
India is far. India is far, far away.
Okay,
Possibly the only possibility would be Elon Musk doing it for the world
okay,
from wherever from Earth he's doing it from. And
okay,
that would be the only possibility of taking mankind to Mars and also establishing something over there, which is his dream, of course. Setting
correct.
aside the complete politics on the other side of the records, uh, technologically speaking, that would be a huge leap for the mankind.
Superb.
Because
Also, I
any field, whatever we develop in rocketry or anything, has a second solution outside. The same tech can be used multiple places because of its super nature of efficiency or expert applications, whatever it's going to create. Parallel applications will be created which can be used in day-to-day lives.
no, I didn't understand that. You're talking
So,
about
so for example, any technology what we develop for space application has multiple applications on the ground as well. That's what I
okay,
meant.
okay. Absolutely,
Okay.
like the starship you mentioned, going from, for example, Delhi to New York in 29 minutes.
Exactly. Yes.
Fantastic. So one more question, please. Now, I want you to give a message to all the students listening today about all of them who have a dream of working in the space industry. Say that they are in school or college and they are a little unsure. Should I enter the space industry? What are some yardsticks they can use to gauge if working for a space company or starting a space company is something they should pursue?
Exactly. Starting a space company is a good point.
Yeah,
So one of the most important thing is passion. Passion, 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 and it should go to obsession. As long as one has that in him or herself, it is going to be beyond leaps and understanding. And remember one thing, all core branches are equally good. Any core branch a person he or she takes is going to take her beyond imagination. And it is always going to be there with him or her. For space or not for space. If he or she decides at a later stage, no, I don't want to go into space for any reason, still core branch always holds. But if it goes into only pure AI or ML, he or she is only dedicated to that, where so many people are coming out nowadays into AI and ML. Huge amount of competition, very less amount of jobs. AI already removes redundant or mundane jobs. Yeah. In such a scenario, why he or she is necessary? It's necessary for them to take AI as a special branch. Why not take core branch of engineering, whatever he or she does, and then go into AI and ML parallelly as a hobby? So, such technological or technical hobbies always are very important for anyone to get into or get passionate, and from passion, it goes into obsession.
superb. So I think the gist of it is go with your passion and welcome core branches with a combination of AI/ML that
Yes.
they can equip their
Go for
studies with.
mechanical engineering. I would prefer to say go for mechanical engineering. I have kids. I would never allow them to go into AI, ML, or computer science. I would take them into core branch of engineering myself and then teach them AI and ML. They should be able to do all the automation, whatever they want themselves. They should be able to judge whom to go to for AI,
What do you
ML.
mean, sir? What do you mean whom to go to? Like
So
how?
every product which is developed is not from one branch of engineering. It imbibes all the branches. So people who should have that, collaborative mentality. It's not that I build the entire thing, it's the team who builds the entire stuff.
So true, so true.
Skyroot is built on entire team effort. It's not one person who's building. Of course, it's led by the leadership, Pawan and Bharat, but and the trust of the investors, but the entire team is Team Skyroot who has built all the rockets. So that
Very
sort of
cool.
a mentality has to come into the minds from childhood onwards.
Yeah. I think what you are saying really resonates with me in the sense that getting along, I think getting along with people is so important and
Build your
is the
network.
foundation. Is
Yes,
the
yes,
foundation for things like peace on earth. I think
yes,
uh,
yes.
at the micro level, what is experienced, like you were talking about the atoms in the electron microscope, that you see the stars in a way is the same as you see in the sky, the such as the microcosm, so the macrocosm. Uh, I heard somewhere. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me today. Depending on the response of this, I hope to invite you again on some questions that I get from my audience. And thank you again for joining. If you have any final message for the viewers, please take the stage again.
So I am from metallurgy and materials, a core branch of engineering. In a similar way, I expect most of you or the viewers to go towards core branches of engineering. That would benefit you a lot in your life. And that enables, opens all the windows, whatever you like at a future stage, rather than concentrating only on AI and ML. I don't say AI and ML are not important, they are important, but they should be part and parcel of your life. It should not be a separate branch on its own. So, with this few words, I think thank you for inviting me, and it was nice to speak to you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Dr. Kiran. Thank you.